shouldn't we always strive to live authentically with ourselves? This means understanding ourselves thoroughly and organizing our lives in a way that aligns with our personalities, right? For instance, when seeking a life partner, we should look for someone compatible with us. Similarly, in education and career choices, should we not pursue paths that suit our individual traits? Living authentically helps us fully enjoy life, accept our true selves, and maximize our potential. However, losing oneself seems to be a common issue. Fortunately, this issue can be explored and addressed. You can start by taking a personality test, seeking guidance from counseling experts, or even embarking on a solo trip through unfamiliar places to, as some say, discover yourself. Because upon deeper introspection, we often find our true essence hidden in unexpected places. Really? According to Michael Puett, a professor of Chinese history at Harvard and the author of The Path, this approach is actually limiting and even potentially dangerous when applied to how we live. In Chinese philosophy, there is no firm concept of self, as we often think of it in the West. Regarding oneself, who we are, and who we can become are both flexible and subject to change, far more so than being confined to a set of fixed traits that define our character. That's right. In Eastern philosophy, the concept of the self is always in a state of development, transformation, and even loss and attainment, not only determined by internal factors but also by the actions we take. Therefore, it cannot be found ready-made, but can be nurtured and developed over time. Self-cultivation is an important part of the ancient Chinese Confucian thought system. Its founder, Confucius, strongly believed in the power of rituals and how they could improve our lives. The term ritual may seem somewhat outdated and often associated with religious ceremonies or specific philosophical systems. However, the power of rituals is often underestimated. Confucius recognized that, in reality, rituals are forms of social connection. Their transformations not only affect how society is organized, they also influence ourselves. Let's try implementing certain disciplined habits like rituals, daily routines, or morning exercises. Something as simple as this can bring about astonishing changes, surpassing the limits we often believe in. This not only affects your own life, but can also spread and positively impact the lives of many others. This video explores ways to become a better version of yourself based on the teachings of Confucius. 1. Regarding Confucius, an ancient Chinese philosopher and political figure, was born in the 6th century BCE in the feudal state of Lu. He opposed the injustices of the aristocracy and established a philosophy of life and governance known later as Confucianism. The principles of Confucianism have deeply influenced the lives of millions of people and remain relevant in modern China. Confucius emphasized the value of ethics, order, and respect, highlighting the construction of a harmonious society. He believed this could be achieved through adherence to tradition, rituals. The fundamental difference between Confucianism and Taoism, its opposing philosophy, is illustrated here. For instance, the Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi opposed excessive interference with nature, as he believed it would disrupt the natural balance of things. A Taoist typically embraces the inherent nature of humanity and approaches life in accordance with its natural flow, often with minimal intervention. On the other hand, a Confucian typically acknowledges the innate nature of human beings, but they view us as rough diamonds, unpolished and with great potential. They believe that through practice and cultivation, we can become better, wiser in life, more integrated, and more ethical. Self-cultivation is a process focused on enhancing and refining how we act and interact with others. It holds the potential for positive change at both the individual and community levels. But how can we effectively engage in self-cultivation? 2. The concept of self. To explore this, first we need to understand ourselves by using tools such as personality assessments, guidance from experts, and self-development materials. We can begin to delve deeper into our self. Some even become enamored with the new personality type they've just discovered, to the point where they completely identify with it and become tightly bound by it. Unfortunately, this leads to a limited view of oneself. Michael Puett has analyzed an aspect of modern Western civilization clearly. He argues that our understanding of self is often misguided. Contrary to the common belief, the Chinese value the idea that the self is not a fixed phenomenon, not something to be found within. According to Puett, the self is described as a mess, not a clear entity. Therefore, we are all a mess, meaning our self is a combination of unfocused expressions like emotions, thoughts, and various other states of being. It may resonate with the Buddhist concept called anatta, meaning non-self. While becoming a mess may seem negative, in reality, it brings a sense of freedom. Often people believe they are how they are and cannot change. "This is who I am," they might say when reflecting on the fact that they get angry easily. In this case, the limited approach fails to understand that attitudes and behaviors can be seen as part of one's character or even a part of culture. However, this perspective is highly restrictive and even dangerous. Believing that some behaviors cannot be changed leads us into negative, repeating patterns, such as abusive relationships, substance abuse, or involvement in criminal activities, which can result in serious consequences like imprisonment. Why is that? Because we believe that everything cannot be improved. In the era of individual freedom, we can understand that freedom comes from breaking conventions, avoiding loyalty, and not being constrained by outdated rituals. No, we have been liberated. Our freedom is to be ourselves. However, the risk of such a perspective is that we become rigid in defining ourselves. We may feel so alienated to the point that the world around us becomes unfamiliar, even hostile. And we may also forget that for the most part, this is a choice, not a condemnation. 3. Directing attention towards change. What we think of ourselves is always changing, evolving, and reacting to external circumstances. This makes us more flexible than we think. Self-cultivation is an art of utilizing this flexibility to our advantage. Instead of focusing on who we are, we shift our focus to who we can become. But how do we do this? Self-cultivation can be used to elevate and refine ourselves in ways that enhance the quality of life. In Confucian philosophy, self-cultivation is about becoming a more ethical person. However, the nature of self-cultivation can lead to various directions, nurturing both good and bad habits. However, let's assume that our ultimate goal is happiness. In that case, the context becomes crucial. To adapt to specific situations, we need sensitivity to recognize which behaviors are most appropriate. Sometimes we realize that our current behaviors aren't yielding the desired results. Therefore, we decide to change them, determined to become better. But how? It's important to recognize that fundamentally, we are a combination of patterns. Sometimes we may not even realize these patterns and how they limit our potential. As Puett stated, our habits limit the range of what we can see, experience, feel, and understand. Therefore, change often cannot occur unless we apply a series of measures similar to those used in healing. 4. The power of ritual. Characteristic rituals include temporarily stepping away from everyday life, abandoning the normal state, and our usual patterns. They create a brief interruption where we have the opportunity to apply and experience new patterns. However, as Confucius emphasized, the practice of these regular rituals can lead to long-term changes over time. For example, consider the Remembrance of the Dead in the Netherlands, an annual ritual held on May 4th. Its aim is to honor all Dutch citizens and soldiers who have sacrificed their lives in wars or peacekeeping missions since World War II. In this civilian ritual, not only does Dam Square in Amsterdam, but also other public spaces such as living rooms, cars, restaurants, shops, and workplaces become temporary ritual spaces. The focal point of the ceremony is 2 minutes of silence, followed by the national anthem. For participants, this ritual is a disruption of their daily lives. Participating in the ritual, we temporarily abandon our usual behaviors and assume a role, the role of a Dutch citizen, someone with a deep connection to the shared past and identity of the Netherlands, with all its values and beliefs, such as freedom and tolerance. The magic happens when, according to annual studies, the entire ceremony, along with the related emotions and thoughts, evoke a sense of unity and connection. In summary, rituals not only keep the Dutch language alive, but also preserve the Dutch spirit. For the community, it serves not only as a means to social cohesion, but also alters the mood of its members. This was recognized by Confucius over 2,500 years ago when he emphasized the importance of rituals. But how can we apply this mechanism to self-improvement, especially when we don't live in a ritualistic community? 5. Self-development. When Confucius entered a great temple and inquired about everything, some people were surprised. Who says Confucius is an expert on rituals? He just comes to the temple and asks about everything. Immediately, Confucius replied, "This too is a kind of ritual." The conclusion from this quote is that in an individualistic society, common habits can become certain rituals. For example, drinking tea every morning or chatting with the cashier at the local supermarket every Saturday morning. To optimize self-cultivation, we need to engage in transformative rituals, activities that disrupt current patterns regularly, step by step, gradually bringing about change. Imagine you're often identified as negative or skeptical. If you engage in conversations where you might be seen as bitter, it could lead to loneliness and resentment, making you feel alienated and unaccepted. Now you might self-righteously proclaim, "Oh, this is my true nature. I'm just being honest. People should accept me as I am." But the problem with this mindset is, from the Chinese perspective, that's not your true nature. You can change by breaking these patterns through the process of self-cultivation. This means engaging in rituals that create as-if moments, where we act purposefully, differently from our usual habits. This is also known as fake it till you make it. Instead of enduring suffering genuinely, we can try to fake a smile. Gradually, we'll realize that happiness has become a part of ourselves. Similarly, when interacting with people we find attractive, even though we might label ourselves as shy, when we decide to appear confident, as if temporarily we are a different version, that behavior will gradually become a habit. So is this liberation? Instead of being constrained by a fixed nature, we can transform ourselves through behavior. Fears can be overcome. Weaknesses can become endearing and kinder, and toxic relationships can turn into sources of encouragement and joy. However, this requires effort and commitment from us in the process of self-cultivation. Life is like playing a musical instrument. If we continuously practice, we become more skilled. But if we stop, our skills diminish. Therefore, we need to constantly refine and change our patterns to become better. So, the most important thing in self-cultivation is be the change you want to see in life.